I'm Riz and welcome to Veteran Gamers. If you are a fan of tactical RPG games, you are probably wondering which ones to look for in 2020 and beyond. Strategy RPGs are admittedly a niche market, which is a shame since some of them are truly excellent games. This means not a lot of information can be found online, so it can be hard to find out which of the upcoming ones will be the best. But fear not, as we will cover in this video all the tactical RPGs which we think will be best, most popular and not to be missed if you are a fan of the genre. The original 1988 Wasteland will remain remembered as the precursor to the Fallout series, which was released in the first two chapters as a turn-based RPG. The third installment, however, entered the 3D world, which was not liked by many fans, and they found solace in other projects until 2014, when they had the opportunity to play Wasteland 2, made by In Exile Entertainment team. Wasteland 3 was announced back in 2016, and it was then said we could expect it at the end of 2019. Although we will be exploring the cold Arizona in Wasteland 3 in the midst of nuclear winter, we will be playing the game itself in the slightly warmer spring. We have just recently received a new preview of the game at the E3 show, and on that occasion it was announced that its release is set to roll out in the spring of 2020. Trailer demonstrates a rather dark style of the play and introduces us to the plot of the game. Namely, in Wasteland 3 we will be save Colorado from the three bloodthirsty rulers, and the task of eliminating them in a nutshell will be given to us by their father, who is also the Arizona Patriarch. Game should bring us a new dialogue system, vehicle management, deeper fighting system and cooperative multiplayer. The independent Polish development team Event Horizon, which may be known to players because of their first Tower of Time game, has announced their new project. Dark Envoy is a non-linear tactical RPG inspired by titles such as Divinity, XCOM, FTL, Mass Effects and Dragon Age, giving players a free exploration of the world with an emphasis on tactical combat imbued with lore and strategy. You will explore the world on your own or in a cooperative mode with another player, and there is a player vs world option in which one player will be the last boss in the game and other player will try to kill him before he becomes too powerful. The main base you will use is Skyship left by your parents, and you embark on missions, whether exploring mythical locations or procedural generated dungeons with extra tasks. The team says that you need to watch where you are traveling, as the world changes as time goes on, so the locations and challenges will become more difficult. You will not go on adventures alone, but will be joined by AI escorts, and depending on the decisions you make, the world will change, as will the NPCs' opinions about your actions. Event Horizon prepares 15 unique classes, and you will be able to mix different skills to find the combination that works best for you. The series that's preceded Heroes of Might and Magic returns. The spiritual predecessor of Heroes of Might and Magic series comes to life in 2008 on PC as King's Bounty: The Legend. King's Bounty 2 was announced at the 2019 Gamescom. From the title itself, change can be discerned. King's Bounty 2 is not King's Bounty: The Legend 2, and will reduce the amount of fantasy in favor of realistic medieval motifs. More specifically, there will be fantastic elements such as dragons, trolls, zombies and the like, but with far less humor and in a darker and more serious tone. But the biggest change King's Bounty 2 brings is the game's perspective. Moving around the map takes place with the camera behind the back of the main character, so there is no longer clicking to determine where the character is going. The danger of mysterious disease that arisen in the kingdom of Antara is growing, damaging the land and people. Refugees from the affected areas arrive in the kingdom of Nostria, leading to food shortages. The infected wander the earth, leaving chaos and destruction behind. The decision the player makes will affect everyone as Antara prepares for a major conflict. In the game, you can choose one of the 3 offered characters, where each has specific characteristics. The fight will not take place on a flat field, but will accurately represent the terrain over which you move on the map. A line of sight has also been introduced, so the fights will be more interesting and challenging. The exact release date is not yet known, but it is expected to be in 2020. The game will be out for PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Empire of Sin is a new game by legendary designer John Romero, and according to the first trailer, it looks like it's going to be full of mafia showdowns as well as shady deals around Chicago during Prohibition. For those who don't know, John Romero is a legendary game developer mostly known for his work on revolutionary FPS games like Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Doom 2 and Quake. After gaining fame with these cult titles, Romero founded his own studio and, unfortunately, made Daikatana, a game known as one of the greatest commercial failures of all time, and the worst game ever in general. Empire of Sin is simulation and tactical RPG game in which we clash with historical figures such as Al Capone and Irish mobster Dino Banyan. Chicago will have 14 mafia bosses who will be fighting each other for market dominance, leading rackets, casinos and etc. The player will be able to choose one of these mobsters and we will have to deal with the others. It is interesting to note that one of the mafia leaders is Romero's great-grandmother, who is called Elvira in the game and runs public houses. Empire of Sin is played on 2 levels. You have to pay attention to the bigger picture, that is to direct resources towards those criminal ventures that you want to undertake. Also, you need to get down to the street level when enemies appear and make tactical decisions to keep your team alive and well. You will need to be able to make or break alliances, make moves in opposing gangs and bribe cops, which will require some managerial skills. Gloomhaven is a digital adaptation of the acclaimed board game mixed tactical RPG and dungeon crawling. Here's what the official description says. At the Gloomhaven you will be manage a team of mercenaries, each with their own reasons for conquering a world full of gloomy and evil decadence. Choose members carefully because you can only rely on your mind, skills and spells in the heat of the fight to succeed in cleaning up dungeons and forgotten ruins. In this roguelike adaptation of dungeon exploration based on the famous board game, you will go through scary randomly generated dungeons, fight against more and more vicious and dangerous opponents, or try until you succeed. Since this is an early access version, don't expect too much content and a game that will work seamlessly. The Flaming Fall Studios development team has prepared 4 characters for you to manage and explore several zones that house various enemies and items. Game should be released in its full version by the end of 2020. Encased is a tactical RPG housed in the sci-fi post-apocalyptic world. The studio working on this game, Dark Crystal Games, already has experience with games like this. The studio was created by people who used to work in the Larian on both parts of Divinity Original Sin. It is immediately apparent that the designers are big fans of classic RPG titles like Fallout and Baldur's Gate. The story of the game is located below the dome, nestled in the middle of the desert, created by unknown alien civilization. The problem with the dome is that you can enter it but not exit it. Exploration inside the dome is conducted by the Cronus Corporation. It is up to you to join and embark on an adventure. At the beginning of the game, you choose which wing to lean on. There are 5 wings, something like classes, with specific skills. The black wing are warriors and guards, white scientists, silver clerics, blue technicians, and orange former criminals who are given a second chance. Depending on the class, your character gets certain characteristics. Although the orange jumpsuit is a lot reminiscent of a Gordon Freeman, it wasn't enough for me to try playing that wing just because of the feature the class has. In addition to the features, the wing defines options in dialogues. Solving tasks also changes the reputation you gain or lose, depending on which wing the character who gave you the task belonged. Encased is an early access and it is a really good game already. There are few bugs, especially with translations, where the texts are in Russian but everything else goes smoothly. I expected it to be a real hit when it's released, as they have managed to strike a chord with the Fallout nostalgics. Solsta: Crown of the Magister is a tactical RPG that embraces the rule set of the world's greatest role-playing game, where players' choice dynamically changes the adventure. The journey begins with creating a team of 4 explorers, selecting their race, class, background story, rolling for abilities and personal stats. Party members can synergize with each other and their different personalities are set to shine when talking to NPCs and quest givers. Player will journey through the mystical realms of Solsta, unraveling a story that spans multiple worlds. The dynamic and mysterious world of Solsta features brand new elements of verticality, allowing players to use their surrounding as an element of strategy. Positioning range characters on high vantage points or send your teeth down into shafts and caverns to scoop out what's ahead. Cover is also dependent on your character's size. Your halfling is likely to find stuff to hide behind more easily. Furthermore, narrow passages can hide secrets and stop large monsters in their path. Utilize light as a tool to explore the depths and hollows of dangerous dungeons, or use it as a weapon against creatures of the dark. Spiders actually crawl around on walls. A rickety bridge can fall out from under you, and a quick cast of Featherfall is needed to prevent injury. Solsta: Crown of Magister looks like a dream experience for Dungeon and Dragon fans. Game uses 5th edition SRD system reference document, but it is not an officially licensed game. Baldur's Gate 3 would also be based on Dungeon and Dragons 5th edition. Solsta is expected to be released in January 2021. Australian indie studio Drop Beer Bites has announced Broken Roads, the studio's debut title. Broken Roads is described as a blend of established and new role-playing elements into a traditional isometric RPG. Founded by veterans from development studios such as Riot and Ubisoft, Drop Beer Bites clearly draws inspiration from the classic Fallout games, putting an Australian twist on the things. As described by the developers, Broken Roads tells the story of a group of companions as they make their way across Western Australia, encountering new friends, overcoming terrible enemies, and uncovering a mystery behind ever stranger happenings in the Never Never. The game exhibits real-time exploration, turn-based combat, hand-drawn artwork throughout. Environment art is also being assisted by Mighty Vertex, the art studio behind the visuals in Hardbrained Scheme's Shadowrun series of RPGs. The game's key mechanic is called Moral Compass and take on a morality system. Dialogue options and quest decisions can be influenced by and contribute to a character's philosophical leaning. This leaning can alter available choices as well as open up something called moral traits, which seems to act like a passive feats. The game is planned for release on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch in 2021. Munich-based developer Serious Games has launched a Kickstarter campaign for Realms Beyond: Ashes of the Fallen. Game is heavily based in a Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 rule set. In the game you can control a party of up to 6 characters, all whom can be one of the 7 different races and 8 different classes. The game also gives the player a multitude of customizations options, allowing each party to feel unique. And since the game is based off the Dungeons and Dragons system of rules, skills and abilities are given the same flexibility as the characters' appearances. The combat at its core is a turn-based tactics game on a grid. Planning multiple turns ahead is crucial to your success, and failing to do so is often fatal. Based on the test footage, we can already see multiple landscapes that will change the battlefield. Random encounters and scripted adventures exist seamlessly within the game. When your party is not dungeon crawling, there is other RPG elements to the game. NPCs have a deep well of dialogue and personalities, and your choice is better when you interact with them. The worlds are filled with the side quests away from the main campaign, and as well as opportunities to explore. But if the main game is not for you, you can instead attempt to make your own scenarios and campaigns with its engine. Grand Guilds is a story-driven tactical RPG with unique blend of card combat mechanics. You and your comrades will journey the lands of Iron, a continent on the brink of another war, while engaging in challenging tactical combat. Unveil a mystery that plunging all the guilds of the land. In the combat, each playable character has unique mechanics and abilities that when combined properly will make the difference between complete victory or utter defeat. Grand Guilds combine a card-based combat system to its tactical RPG core mechanics. Basically, a character's combat actions are governed by skill cards, lumped into the 3 categories: physical, magical, and utility. The first 2 categories are fairly self-explanatory, while the utility cards are more of like support skills, heals, crowd control, taunts, and the like. Of course, at its core, Grand Guilds is still tactical RPG, so the same rules of the genre apply. Turn-based system, grid-based map, and movement, limited actions per turn. For Grand Guilds, these are consumable action points, terrain, and elevation elements. Grand Guilds will launch on Steam and on the Nintendo Switch. There's also PC demo available if you want to test out a bit of what the game has to offer. Release date is January 2020. The Curious Panda Games, The Iron Oath, is a turn-based tactical RPG set in a dark fantasy world. Recruit and manage a roster of adventurers across the decades and centuries and send them on missions where they must confront their mortality. Every decision made carries weight and can have a minor or major influence on the world around you. As you and your guild progress, the world changes dynamically, opening up new paths to follow and resulting in a unique experience for every playthrough. There are 2 main aspects on gameplay in the Iron Oath: the mission phase and the overworld phase. Mission focus on combat and exploration, while the overworld deals with managing your guild's affairs and traveling. The Iron Oath is scheduled for release sometime during 2020 via Steam. That's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Which tactical RPG are you most excited about? Share your thoughts in comments, let us know what you think, and subscribe and share if you enjoyed this video. See you next time.